Hi, and welcome to podcast for section 4-2, What Shapes an Ecosystem. This is going to be part one. I've split this section up into two parts to make it easier for you to understand. So, biotic and abiotic factors. You know that biotic or bio means living, so we're going to talk about what is the difference between these two factors. The first one should be easy for you to define. Ecosystems are influenced by a combination of biological and physical factors. So, biotic is the biological influence, which means the entire living cast an organism might interact with. Abiotic, and the prefix a means not. So abiotic are the physical or non-living factors that shape an ecosystem. Examples here might include the climate, which is temperature, precipitation, and humidity. Also wind, nutrient availability, soil type, and sunlight. So all of these included here are going to be abiotic or non-living factors. If we look at the picture as a whole and we look at our factors, biotic means living, so you've got your moose, your tree, your eagle, your bunny, your grass, all of those are living things. Then in your abiotic section, you've got your clouds, your mountain, your water, your rocks. All of those are non-living factors. We put them together and we end up with an ecosystem. And that's where both are going to be combined together. Habitat, another definition, is where an organism lives. So a habitat is where an organism lives. And the habitat includes both biotic, which is living, and abiotic, which is non-living factors. So if you think about habitat, it includes both living and non-living factors. An organism's habitat is its address, so that's one thing to remember. The habitat is its address, and its niche is its occupation, or the role that it plays in the ecosystem. The fancy definition of a niche is the full range of both physical and biological conditions in which an organism lives and the way in which the organism uses those conditions. And there are a lot of different things which come into play when we talk about defining niche. And they are, the niche includes its place in the food web, range of temperature that an organism needs to survive, type of food the organism eats, how an organism obtains or gets its food, which species use the organism for food, the physical conditions required for survival, and finally, when and how an organism reproduces. So all of these things play a key role in the organism's niche. One rule of thumb to always remember when we talk about a niche is no two species can share the same niche in the same habitat. Once again, no two species can share the same niche in the same habitat. So we look at the tree is the habitat. We have warblers, which are all the same type of bird, but you notice that they are occupying different areas of the tree. So we have the Cape May warbler that will live just in the top of the tree. The bay-breasted warbler lives in the center of the tree, and then the yellow-rumped warbler feeds at the lower part of the tree. So there's no competition going on here. They're all living together in the same habitat, but in different sections of the tree. Different species can occupy niches that are very similar. And as you can see, that's happening here. Community interaction. Community interaction such as competition, predation, and various forms of symbiosis can powerfully affect an ecosystem. The first one, competition, is something that I think you really know what the definition is. So competition occurs when organisms of the same or different species attempt to use an ecological resource in the same place at the same time. So once again, competition is the same or different species using an ecological resource in the same place at the same time. A resource is any necessity of life. So it can be biotic or abiotic. Water, nutrients, light, food, or space, all are a resource. And this is a question that students get wrong a lot of times on a test. So make sure that you remember what a resource is, or an example of a resource. Direct competition often results in a winner and a loser, with the losing organism usually failing to survive in this particular incident. Here would be an example, which is already written in your notes, of one that you don't normally think of when it comes to competition. Broad-leafed trees may compete for sunlight by growing tall, spreading their leaves, and blocking the sunlight for shorter trees, which means at the base, down here at the bottom, you're going to find very little vegetation. Think about a forest. You find very little vegetation growing because the canopy takes up so much space. Another example, two species of lizards in a desert might compete by attempting to eat the same type of insect. So once again, they're competing for food in this particular incident. So here's our famous rule of thumb. In the competitive exclusion principle, very important to remember this. This will come up again and again and again when we talk about ecology. States that no two species can occupy the same niche in the same habitat at the same time. Once again, no two species can occupy the same niche in the same habitat at the same time. Moving on, we go to predation. Predation is an interaction in which one organism captures and feeds on another organism. This is really familiar to you. And the two players in predation are going to be an organism that does the killing. So the organism that kills is called the predator. And the food organism is going to be the prey. So once again, the predator does the killing, the prey is the one that gets killed. Symbiosis is any relationship in which two species live very closely together. That's called a symbiotic relationship. And there are going to be three main classes of symbiotic relationships in nature. These are mutualism, commensalism, and parasitism. We're going to go through each one of these categories separately. The first one is going to be mutualism. In mutualism, both species benefit from the relationship. So the example that I put in your notes, many flowers depend on insects to pollinate them. The flowers provide the insects with food in the form of nectar or pollen, and the insects help the flowers reproduce. So once again, in mutualism, both species benefit from the relationship. In commensalism, one member of the association benefits and the other is neither helped nor harmed. So in commensalism, only one organism is helped. The example that I put in your notes are barnacles and the relationship with a whale. Barnacles are small marine animals that attach themselves to a whale's skin. The barnacles perform no known service to the whale, but they benefit from the constant movement of water that carries food particles because barnacles are filter feeders. The final one is called parasitism. And in parasitism, one organism lives on or inside another organism and harms it. The parasite obtains all or part of its food from the other organism called the host. Parasites weaken, but it's very important to remember they do not kill the host, which is usually larger than the parasite itself. Now, here are going to be some examples of parasites that you might be familiar with. Tapeworms are parasites that live in the intestines of mammals. So a lot of times dogs get these. Humans can even get tapeworms also from eating pork that might not have been inspected and have the eggs of the tapeworm in it. Fleas, ticks, and lice all live on the bodies of mammals also. So those are 3 more examples of particular organisms that live off of mammals. This concludes the first part of section 4-2 podcast.